President al-Sisi holds talks with Sudan's Army Chief al-Burhan. Scores of Israeli settlers storm Al-Aqsa Mosque under heavy security. And Ukraine says advancing on southern front near Robotyne. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi held talks with visiting Sudanese Army Chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan in the Alamein city on Tuesday. Presidential spokesman Ahmed Fahmy said that during the talks, President al-Sisi stressed the significance of enhancing ties with Sudan on the official and public stages. The head of state described Cairo's stance towards Sudan as solid and reaffirmed Egypt's firm position in standing by Sudan and supporting its security, stability and territorial integrity. For his part, General Burhan said ties between the two sides are highly valued, praising the Egyptian enhancement to preserve the security and stability of Sudan. The meeting tackled the latest developments in Sudan and efforts to settle the crisis to keep the unity and sovereignty of the country. The talks also focused on the outcome of Sudan's neighbors' meeting, with al-Burhan welcoming it. Bilateral ties and coordination of aid for the Sudanese people, especially with regards to humanitarian assistance, also topped the agenda of the meeting. Burhan, in his first trip abroad since fighting began with paramilitaries in April, was accompanied by Intelligence Chief Ahmed Ibrahim Mufaddal and Interim Foreign Minister Ali al-Siddiq. Egypt has constantly exerted its utmost effort to contain the Sudanese crisis and preserve stability and security of the nation within the framework of the Egyptian foreign policy and its constants. Egypt has also affirmed its keenness in Sudan's unity, security, territorial integrity and stability of its people. The story.
The outbreak of the Sudanese crisis in the 15th of April 2023, Egypt has exerted its utmost efforts to contain the crisis and stop the bloodshed of the Sudanese people within the framework of Egyptian foreign policy and its constants. These are represented in the stability and unity of Sudan, non-interference in its internal affairs, the safety of its brotherly people, and the provision of all possible assistance to it, as well as preserving Egyptian national security, starting with President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi's keenness and emphasis on diffusing the crisis and his contacts with all Sudanese, African, Arab and international parties, as well as the movements of the Ministries of Foreign Affairs and Immigration in coordination with other institutions to address the crisis and its consequences for the Egyptian community in Sudan. Egypt has also affirmed its keenness on Sudan's unity, security, territorial integrity and stability of its people and the importance of reaching a permanent and comprehensive settlement to the conflict as soon as possible. In this, President Sisi made several contacts with his counterparts in Africa. On May 21, 2023, Egypt welcomed the signing of the Sudanese parties participating in the Jeddah talks of a one-week arms agreement. On May 9, 2023, President Sisi received the Lieutenant General to Glock advisor to the President of the Republic of South Sudan for Security Affairs. The President received a message from his brother President Salva Kiir on ways to enhance the distinguished bilateral relations between the two countries, in addition to review developments in the situation of Sudan and consult on efforts to settle the crisis in order to preserve the safety and security of the brotherly Sudan people. On May 3, 2023, President al-Sisi received a high-ranking delegation from the U.S. House of Representatives, headed by Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy. The meeting witnessed discussions about developments on the regional scene and the crisis the region is going through, especially with regard to recent developments in Sudan, where the President stressed the importance of intensifying efforts to reach political solutions to the existing crisis in a manner that preserves the unity of the states and preserves the capabilities of their peoples and prevents sliding towards chaos and destruction, pointing to Egypt's exertion of maximum effort to advance the path of peaceful political dialogue in brotherly Sudan, a ceasefire and protection of civilians of the humanitarian consequences of the conflict. On the 30th of April 2023, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi met with Fumio Kishida, the Prime Minister of Japan, where it was agreed with regard to Sudan on the necessity of achieving and stabilizing the ceasefire, advancing political dialogue efforts, and completing the transitional phase. As the Japanese Prime Minister appreciated in this regard the assistance provided by Egypt for the evacuation of Japanese nationals from Sudan, extending its sincere condolences to the Egyptian government and people for the martyrdom of a member of the Egyptian diplomatic mission in Khartoum while performing his duty. And on the 27th of April 2023, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi received Karl Nehammer, Federal Chancellor of the Republic of Austria. The meeting witnessed the discussion of regional and international files and issues of mutual interest, especially the situation in Sudan. And on the 26th of April 2023, President al-Sisi also received a phone call from Mr. Charles Michel, President of the European Council. The call dealt with developments in the situation of Sudan, where the President of the European Council expressed deep concern about the deteriorating political security and humanitarian situation and its impact on civilians and foreign communities, noting the importance of the role played by Egypt to advance efforts to reach a ceasefire and calm the situation in Sudan. And the President affirmed Egypt's full support for the brotherly Sudanese people in the serious crisis they are going through, and presented his sovereignty with developments in the efforts undertaken by Egypt to reduce the escalation and reaching a comprehensive and permanent ceasefire, and the contacts it is making in this regard with the actors at all levels, regionally and internationally. In this context, President al-Sisi stressed the importance of intensifying efforts to activate the political track and peaceful dialogue in a way that pushes towards the return of stability and security and takes into account the supreme interests of the brotherly Sudanese people. On the 23rd of April 2023, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi received a phone call from the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Rishi Sunak, in which the call dealt with discussing the developments of the Sudanese crisis and coordinating efforts between the two countries in this regard. As the British Prime Minister noted that the role of Egypt is essential in maintaining peaceful and security at the regional level, in addition to being one of the most important active neighboring countries in Sudan, in which the current crisis represents a serious challenge to stability in the entire region, and the two leaders expressed grave concern about the escalation of violence and fighting in Sudan, which exposes civilians to great dangers and increasing, while addressing in this regard the effects to evacuate the nationals of the two countries from Sudan. The two leaders expressed hope that dialogue and political track aiming at sparing Sudan the catastrophic consequences of the conflict on its stability and the capabilities of its people.
Irada Gid, or a Will of a Generation party, said on Tuesday all its members and MPs had expressed full support to President al-Sisi in the upcoming presidential election. It said support stems from a desire to achieve the aspirations of the Egyptian people and the continuing of the development path. It said its stance reflects its aim to face challenges to Egyptians and support for continuing peace and security through the solidarity of people and the armed forces, the police, the judiciary, and the media. The third ministerial meeting hosted by Cairo over the past 2 days on Ethiopia's dam was concluded. The Minister of Water Resources and Irrigation announced in a statement that the meeting, which brought together Cairo, Addis Ababa, and Khartoum, did not witness tangible changes in Ethiopia's stance. According to the statement, Cairo will continue with its relentless efforts to reach a legal and obligatory deal over the filling and operation of the dam in a way that protects Egyptian interests in water security and preserves the interests of the three countries. The statement said to achieve these targets, all parties must adopt a comprehensive vision that projects national interests and achieves the welfare of all sides. Scores of Israeli occupation settlers broke into the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound under heavy occupation, police security conducting provocative rounds and rituals. This came